Welcome to VR Verdict Podcast, episode 74. I am PJ.
I'm Wookie.
And I'm
Joining
Dan.
us is
Dan.
How you doing?
Good. He's from eFish Games working on Saberpunks.
That's right. Yeah, it's a VR multiplayer. I hesitate to say sword fighting game. It's more of a fighting game at its core. It utilizes a lot of melee weapons, and our mission statement was we wanted to do melee over at range, where you would simulate all the behaviors of a melee combat, but because VR is inherently bad for melee combat, because you can't have the occlusion, your hands go desync real fast, I decided to throw the attacks and have those projectiles kind of represent the attack over time. And these flying projectiles, they act kind of like the blocks in Beat Saber. They come at you over a range, and you kind of have to like look at it and the stuff that's coming at you to plan out how you're going to block or interact. So I often say it's kind of got a rhythm game soul to it, but it's a fighting game at its core.
Yeah. You were kind enough to get me a build, and I played it, and like, I don't want to say it's Street Fighter in VR. You probably don't agree like
No.
that, but
No, I don't mind at all. To be set next to the greats is humbling. Yeah. It's very nice. Yeah.
The moves, like Wookiee, for like you know, we used to play Street Fighter, and you actually have to swing your arms like diagonally up, down, and there's like, I don't know what, 10 plus moves per weapon per character, and
that's right.
more.
Yeah, about 10 or 11 combos per character, and we have 12 characters, and then each has an ultimate weapon where you activate and you spend your kind of this meter you've been building up by blocking, and so you're incentivized to be defensive, and then it will convert your weapon to a different, more powerful one that has like you don't even have to do a combo to get that special move out, and so all the basic attacks are enhanced, and you get a shield. It's pretty game turning, tide turning kind of effect.
Yeah. I think it's really dynamic because you're trying to do a move and the other guy's throwing stuff at you, and just with the blocking and having to get your move
Right.
out. Oh, it was
because your offensive weapon is your defensive surface, and the way that we designed the slash logic involves having to go from kind of like behind you. There's an invisible box right in front of you, and you have to clear it all the way through, which inherently prevents you from blocking, because you can't stop and catch things in front of you. You have to clear the space, opening you up to be hit. So that's kind of how we designed it, was you had to choose between attacking or defending, or kind of a hybrid.
Then you can't like just cheese it somehow and like throw your stuff and then block halfway through it. That's pretty good.
So you can skill shot it though, because the slashes are still coming in front of you, and if you time it right, you can hit and collide against the attack while slashing, and that's like the pro move, is to be able to destroy the incoming attack with your swing, but you have to be going a certain speed.
And then your projectile still goes. Yeah. Huh.
And it's inherently difficult to do, but it's like there's layers to it.
like I was playing with gun swords and you could shoot, but on the edge of the gun there's a blade, and that's what you block with most of the weapons. So like, you could block, like you were saying, like block it and then still pull off your move. It worked really well. Like I'm excited.
Yeah, the combo system. We were inspired to do a game with minimal buttons. We wanted to utilize as much of the, motions that make VR so good. And so there are 8 directions that you can cut. There's 4 diagonals and 4, vertical horizontals. And then there's 2 hands. So that's 16 different inputs, plus a jab on each hand.
Yeah.
So you actually have 18 possible inputs to the combo set. And then that will reward you with like a spinning attack, which brings up the most interesting part, I think, is the fact that the slash that's coming at you, you have to block like perpendicular.
Yeah.
If you line up with the slash will pass through your sword and it'll hit you. Because if you think about, like, I've got a sword and I'm standing next to you, if I point it at your blade and you just go like that, I'm not stopping anything. I have to catch it at like an angle. So when the stuff is coming through and it's spinning, it's really hard to like guess where it's going to land based on where you are, and you know, if you're planning on moving around, it may be a little different distance from you, and it'll keep rotating. So there's spin, stun, strong, which is a two-handed block, multi-shot, and chip. I think that's what we got. But yeah, different combinations of those output rewards make each character feel kind of identified. Like they associate more with the spin moves, or they associate more with the strong attacks where you have to block with two hands. So we tried to give more like of a flavor and link that to the style of weapons. And no two weapon has the same shape. Like, they're all different. Including the ultimates. Very different.
I thought it was really neat. You were having me share my screen while I was playing, and you're watching me giving me tips. And I was really quiet because there's so many moves and just trying to learn all that. It's just like any new fighting game where you're kind of, at first you're like, holy crap, that's too much. But then you figure out 2 or 3 and you're like, oh, I got this.
Mm-hmm. And in combat,
yeah, that's cool.
In combat, it's always different. Like, you have a training mode, you're like, oh, practice, and you forget everything in battle.
Mm-hmm.
And it's such a different experience, and that's why I think fighting games are unique as opposed to like a Beat Saber where it's on a script. It's the same thing. When you're up against a human, it changes how the whole experience, you know, it kind of makes a story out of it.
Yeah.
Because you never know who you're going to be up against, what strategies do they like. And that's why I'm on the fence. I'm kind of curious. Have you guys seen a lot of success with multiplayer-only games? Because I'm tempted to, because it's a 1v1, it's kind of a good format for multiplayer because you only really need one opponent. But I'm trying to see if it's worth investing prior to like a full release in some form of single-player pop.
Go ahead.
That's always a challenge, is because it's finding other people. You know, especially, you know, if a game's brand new or a game's getting a little old and there's nobody to play with. I think
Longevity.
Even just having the tag online only might cull a few possible purchasers, and that would just because they'll be like, well, I'm not going to find anybody to play with. So I'm a fan of having both, but I don't know.
Yeah, and I've always loved the option to say if I only have a half hour, you know, trying to find a match or someone to play with, or if it's laggy, it's like I've wasted that half hour I didn't even play. So it's nice to have something to hop into with a shorter amount of time for single player.
I built out the training just kind of to have something to do in the meantime, but I still think that it's important that we give content to people who are not necessarily as competitive.
Yeah.
Out the gate, or somebody who may want to feel more comfortable with a game before going. Because I mean, I know people who refuse to play multiplayer.
Yep. I know a lot of those people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm still kind of feeling out how we want to release, but yeah.
I think with the characters I've seen, you could really give them some kick-ass backstories and make it really cool.
That's the advantage of single players. You have time to tell the story.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a couple writers on staff, so I think we would have the capacity to fill that out.
I mean, I get way too competitive, so in my brain with competitive games, it's like, and PJ can attest to that, I think. Unless I have enough time to like practice, I won't even do the multiplayer because I'm going to be annoyed at it. So way back when we'd play like Soul Calibur on the old Dreamcast or something like that, that game's just as complicated as any other. If you use the Maxi, the nunchuck guy, every move leads into a stance that leads to like 10 more moves, and it's like 10 moves here, 10 moves there, and it's just nuts. So
did you find yourself practicing in like a single player or practicing in training?
In the single player, I just run through the story for the characters, and I would just keep playing the story mode because even if it's a little goofy or corny, like that game with the announcer was like, the soul still burns and all this stupid stuff. But I'm still doing that because the training was like, start out with the training, get used to a few ideas, but then I want a little bit more dynamic,
Yeah.
dynamic.
I always went through the single player and looked at the move list every couple minutes. Okay, I learned this move. What's the next move type thing?
Yeah. And Soul Calibur specifically, I think they had a button you could pop up the move list in training. So I would do both.
They got that.
That's awesome. That's perfect.
Yeah, we have a little PDA that pops up in your hand even mid game, so it doesn't obscure your vision. You can fight and research.
That's awesome.
I've done that a lot.
And be like, oh crap, that's
yeah.
awesome.
Well, how does that work? I forgot. It's really funny because you can tell when the opponent's doing it too, because they'll twist their
You
hand,
rush
their
'em.
weapons looking down.
The setup on their game, Wookie, you're both on the top of a roof, and the object is to knock the other one off, correct? They're really neat.
Yeah.
Like the sumo square or circle.
Sort of, but it
You come out of
does
the line.
make it a very linear game, which is if you look at it from the side, it looks like a traditional fighting game, which is what we're going for. Because they don't go off plane. It's not like a 3D fighter. You would fall if you go too far to the side. That's how we kind of keep the players in a general area, but give them freedom of motion to duck and dodge. So they're not locked in a cockpit, but they are bounded.
Yeah, it's really neat.
That sounds cool. I can't wait till we can have maybe a video up here. If
Yeah,
we
that's
get,
coming.
Clip before that. That is going to be so cool. Be like, you can highlight what we're talking about
Love that.
because I just want to see this stuff. Because
Yeah, our Discord, I'll have you guys post it and check it out, but we have matchmaking. Every other Friday, we try to get a group together and all go in and test the latest build. So we've also been getting some people to stream it on Twitch, and so we have a bunch of gameplay footage you can watch.
that's cool. That's very cool.
And you had asked earlier about my back story kind of with my development. I never started as a game developer or designer or anything. I started in the military as a civilian, working with web apps. So as a full stack, kind of Java mid-tier databasing, some light JavaScript. But that led me into finance, where I worked for Fannie Mae, and then FINRA. And then after that, I'm currently working for NASA through a Raytheon contractor. And it's just all of this until NASA, very dry. So I really have kind of needed this kind of an outlet for creativity and more of a vision, something that's tangible. Because finance, no one understands. Ridiculous thing. But this is tangible. This is you create an experience, and you can connect with some people and not with others, but you have a broad audience you're trying to reach, and it's really interesting because I'm used to having 15 people that are told they have to use my software, and because it's in a small it's a company, and they just have a few SMEs that need some tool. But building a game, you can go in there and debug and watch things move around and change state, and it just is inside of the living program.
Yep.
I was a 3D enthusiast, actually, prior to VR. I would take 3D photos with a camera that I had built. It was two really small form factor Sony NEX, but they were still DSLR, good lens kind of cameras, but they had a really short width. So I could get two of them next to each other, and they were
Nice.
maybe twice pupillary distance, which is still kind of disorienting, but it worked. And I would take pictures, and I'd put them up on my 3DS and on my TV, and then all of that technology. And this happened, and I was like, this is better. Because movies and televisions, it's such a perspective-driven thing. And when you have stereo, you have one camera perspective. So there's literally only one person in the entire theater who's getting a good experience.
Yeah.
right? Everyone else is at the wrong angle and probably getting a headache. But VR changes all. So, once I
We can all
was-
get a
I was
headache
wor-
together in VR.
Yes, exactly. A very big communal experience of, especially since they really, really pushed that post-production 2D popping, where they would make a movie with 2D cameras and then they'd take an X-Acto knife and cut out the characters, right? And it just isn't right. That's why Avatar and Dread 3D, those were good. Maybe not, from an entire cinematic perspective, but the 3D was good because they used 3D cameras.
I had a friend working for Giovanni Ribisi after Avatar. He was working in the grayscale, like upscaling 2D shots by painting gray weights and stuff to make it closer to the
Yeah.
camera. And I was
Yeah.
like, "You're the asshole."
Yeah, exactly.
It's giving me headaches.
Yeah, and the thing is, my opinion of it was that they loved 3D tickets because box office numbers were in dollars, not number of people. So if you had a more expensive ticket, it looked like more people went to see your movie.
Sure.
So the box office numbers were getting inflated by the extra price, 20% price jump of the 3D cost. So it would look better on their box office numbers, so they would just back convert 2D stuff just to try to get a buck, and that was annoying. But this
That angers
space,
me.
this has not been ruined yet. Like the VR landscape is so fresh. I mean, literally, you have a construction over in the game. Like, I think it just is very true to what we're experiencing right now, which is we're at the kind of the event horizon for this. We don't know what's on the other side, but you can see
Yeah.
things taking shape. And this is really interesting. I like this as like a nice little meetup space where you can build out and interact. When did this happen? I had not heard of this.
They've been doing this for a couple months. Spatial Ape, they have a trade show every Thursday. Wookiee's body's flying that way.
All right.
But
I didn't know we were
yeah, they
fighting.
have a trade show with. Trying some moves out. Yeah, every Thursday they have a trade show with developers, and I was actually off this week, so I actually got to experience the whole thing. And they all meet in the middle of the space, do a couple introductions, and then everyone goes to their booth for the game or app, whatever they're doing. And then you just walk around and talk. And then it was funny last Thursday, or yesterday, I guess. There was like 10 plus people in our booth. We were just having a chat of different areas, like countries and the differences, and shipping of hardware and doing software, and we just sat here and talked for like an hour and a half. So
And I
That's
missed it.
great. Yeah, I found
Yeah.
really interesting the Twitch community. I've been interacting with for the first time in my life because I'm of the millennial generation where we actually played games in the same room as each
Yep.
other. And that's just not an option anymore. The size of the
Sucks.
games, VR and all that. Your split screen days are done, and now it's all this kind of like late night. It's every night live. Is Twitch they have to improv, they have to entertain, and they have to do it live all the time. I'm
Yeah.
very impressed, and they have really positive and really negative communities, but in all, they're all there to have fun. And I can appreciate it now that I've gotten closer to it, and I've gotten to know some of the people who stream, and they're a huge asset to me because they love to try new stuff, and I
Yep.
need as many bodies as I can.
yeah.
Because you're only a new player once.
Yeah.
After that, you're trained. You've already you figured it out. You're not as useful as a tester once you've touched it.
Yeah. So going back to story and what you want to talk about your character over here, we can go do
Sure.
some show and tell.
So this is Bodark. He carries the heavy weapons in the game, which is the axes, single edge. They sit out on the hilt a bit, so your blocking surface is not as close to your hand as with the sabers. They have a 15 damage each, so he's the highest base damage character in the game with 30 total. It only cuts on one edge, so you can't come back. You have to turn around and cut. Same with sabers, but that single edge nature kind of reduces speed naturally. It just is a little bit harder to cut because you have to turn around. But the ultimate mode for him is a double-headed axe and beast claw. So the double-headed axe is strong, and the beast claw shoots doubles. So it's a little bit asymmetric, kind of a weapon style, where you have one small and one huge, with like fast little shots, and then like the big stomper. So I think it feels kind of fun to do both. We wanted to have him feel really very much like a lot of heavy damage. He is Russian. I believe he has a, troubled backstory, as we all do. But he's I'm not sure if the race has been named yet, but we're working on the more of the world building to say exactly, what his origins. But he's ex-military Spetsnaz, I believe, is the Russian special forces. And the kind of camo, kind of a blue emissive, so it's a very kind of a cold, going for that Siberian husk, kind of a vibe.
Nice.
Yeah, we have a pretty strong emissive on him, on all our characters. Very Tron-like energy is what we're going for, but it actually will light up as dynamically as you are playing the game. It's kind of meant to represent their soul energy.
Okay.
Is kind of the and it's the slashes. We're going canonically with them being a extension of yourself. You will it into existence because you have shown that you want to attack them, and so it flies out from your being. And these people are able to wield these weapons because they have a strong of will, like character, strong motivations, and they're able to utilize these, whereas the common man could not. So they're special warriors, they're mercenaries, so they're a bit untethered, but they are hired by the corporations who have replaced the government. And they're kind of like, fiefdom. Big corporations have kind of taken over the rule of the land, and they don't play nice, so they hire mercenaries to mess with each other's business. So that's kind of the backstory of what we're working with. Is very dystopian, cyberpunk. We just wanted to try to take a different angle on cyberpunk and go more international, because I've always seen it's either like major city and it's almost always Tokyo. Yeah. And so we wanted to see what would rural cyberpunk look like. What would what would a mountaintop dojo? How would that be enhanced in the future? Right. That's what we're going for. Is a little more nature mixed in, because usually it's all metallic and.
That's awesome.
We're trying to be on the edge, and the environment's in decline, so we're trying to see how does that represent itself in our environments. Haze, fog, we're definitely playing around a lot with like a kind of a misty, dusty, we called it the Blade Runner haze, because it's that, that just almost radioactive looking orange color that you can really make a scene look truly dystopian with.
Nice.
Sounds cool.
Just curious, for the moves, like, are these just things you made up and, hey, these feel good? Or did you have anyone that's had any form of weapon training say, hey, this is kind of how that works? Or
I went to a sword fighting class at the get-go. When we had the idea, I signed up for a longsword class and befriended the instructors. So, cut to a couple weeks later, he's got 10 swords laid out in my backyard, and we're like running through them, getting a feel for what directions cut feels good with them. He's got like a. He's got like an 8-foot, like massive sword. It's bigger than he is, and he's huge. But it let me actually get some real sword fighting into the game. So if you play with longsword and you're familiar with longsword, you'll actually notice that the combo system that it's based off of has a directional cut diagonal always, and then a return. But it's 2 of those in a row. And the Myers square is a training process for longswordsmen to cut along diagonals and then change the direction and cut back. And then there's 4 different versions of that. So there'll be like top left, top right, and then bottom left, bottom right. And it helps you explore kind of the circle. But that it's perfect for our combo system because it's all diagonals and it's a very specific sequence. So if you know longsword, you're gonna like that character.
Yeah, Wookiee and I took a sword class, Wookiees, and that stuff a little more than I was. It wasn't much, but
Hima?
Katori with Japanese katanas.
Nice.
but
Yeah, it was fun.
it did really feel like a couple of those. It was familiar, and I'm like, "What the hell? This is awesome!"
It's
Yeah,
weird
it's
when you get your hands on it how instinctive some of that is, and the diagonals are all it's about. So that is kind of cool that you picked up on that.
Yeah, and for the sabers, we went with there's like an old Portuguese sword fighter who's got a reputation for being dancy. So we made a lot of the combo names were like, Tango de la Muerte, and some different fun things based off a dancing theme. But the cuts are actually designed to clear a room. Because you're supposed to, like, okay, let me see if I have room in here to do this. But let's say you were standing next to me on either side, just where you are, right?
Battle
So you would
stance.
hit 3 shots on the left, and then also kind of leaning in so that he's further. 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3. And you could clear a room like that. So it's actually 2 different combos. First you learn the set, and you have an alt per side. And then the total combo is doing each in sequence. And you get something better for doing all 6 motions. Diagonal, diagonal, horizontal, diagonal, diagonal, horizontal. And it
That's
just
awesome.
feels natural. It feels right because it's based off of...
It's cool that you have that because there's some sword fighting games in VR that PJ and I have played. And for me, they bother, because you don't have the haptic feedback. So, like, if you're banging on their sword, it's like, no, my hands are here, the sword's somewhere else. And it's like, damn it. But you've been able to take the natural feel and put it into a combo system where it actually moves, but it's
Right.
controlled by natural motion.
And your
it
opponent
actually
can't
feels
interrupt
good.
you.
Yeah.
Your opponent can't stop your hands, but they can stun you. So if I pull off a stun attack, then it could interrupt your combo. So there's a little bit of counterpunch built into that because even if you block successfully, it disables that weapon. So you would have like a second where you'd have to kind of wait and hope that your combo didn't time out. And you can stop a spammer real easy because spammers aren't defending.
Yeah.
They're just going like this, and they can't stop from getting hit because they're just too busy swinging out of the defensive area. So stun is a counter spam, along with just basically any combo because it stacks damage, and spammers can't do combos because it just is, unless they're very very good, which should be rewarded.
Yeah.
We
I'm
did
excited. It felt
spam
very
decay.
intuitive.
Good. We definitely are trying not to encourage spamming, but we want to allow it. It'll still work, but we try to scale it down so it's not the only strategy.
That's a good thing, too, because I like
Newbies
to
are
do
going
the
to
Indiana
button
Jones.
mash.
They do, yeah. And sometimes they win, but I like the Indiana Jones method where they shoots the guy. You do all these moves you want, and you just kind of get him with an experience.
And it's funny because I have gun blades, so there is a little bit
Yeah.
of that gun to a knife party. Yeah. My favorite weapon, hands down, it was kind of like the culmination of the weird things that I do in the game. I have a battery-powered two-handed sword. The way I do it, instead of grabbing it and gripping it and have it be like a fulcrum, I actually just require you to put the hand nearby. So you can kind of hold it however you want. and it powers the weapon like a battery. So it allows you to attack, but it still feels heavy because you have to keep your hands together.
Yeah. And I like how you had the audio with that because you could hear it, and if you got too far, you heard a and you're like, oh crap. And I instinctively would put my hands together and finish off the combo. So.
There's an art to
Very
that
neat.
audio. I wasn't sure how to notify you that you were doing it wrong, right? Because there were several events we could have done, but we decided to notify you when you break a part and then just have a low hum when it's working.
Yeah.
The everything's okay alarm, right?
It was very helpful for you watching me, yelling at me, saying, nope, wrong.
That's not great.
But
I'm
you
not
can't
going to
do
be
that
able to
for
be there
everybody.
all the time. Exactly. But hopefully the message conveys. But what I did, I made gun blades after that, which, you know, it lets you shoot, and it's kind of built into the existing system for jabs. But then I combined those two, and I made, I took a Barrett 50 cal and I put swords on it. So it has a sword on the top coming out of the scope, and a sword in the bottom, like where a bayonet would go. And it's battery powered, and it shoots strong jabs. So you need both hands to block, or it'll like come through. And the scope works. So I'm very proud of that.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, but it's kind of a combination of the two weird things that I'm doing that I don't think a lot of other games are doing. So I'm excited to see how people like it.
And I can tell you, I don't remember if I played for about an hour, maybe. I was just dead. And you're like, hey, want to go try multiplayer? And I'm like, yeah, but my arms are numb.
Noodles. And it's
that's-
going to be a workout because it's competitive.
Yeah.
And you have like a reason to be putting in this energy other than just
Yep.
to try to, you know, and I think that's a lot of that Beat Saber, you know, you can just get in the grind, you're going through it. But I think there's something different when it's a person. In a fighting game, there's just, it
You take it more
feels-
seriously, yeah.
I
and
think your
you're-
adrenaline comes
you're
in
on
more
edge.
because you feel like you're in some sort of a, you know, I don't know. I get more hyped with fighting games than rhythm games. Nothing
Yeah.
against Speed. I think it is the best game. It's the gold standard for minimalist fun in VR. Like they just,
Yeah.
they have a very solid concept. They executed it well, and they built a great community. So I can only hope to, you know, to have any of that success. But we're just trying to be fun. We're just trying to have options, let different, you know, different play styles work with the game. But yeah,
Yeah, once the moves clicked, I was sold. I was like, this is going to be awesome. And
excellent.
just doing the training and, you know, you interacting with me and stuff, it was pretty epic. So I can't imagine how it'll be to beat up on my brother here.
Yeah, send him a copy. Let me know when you do, so I can watch, because it's really educational for me to see new players play. I would not fight against you because it's just no one learns anything, right? When the creator of the game plays
Yeah.
against you, I would rather watch you two play. So
I'm
So
gonna
are you
have to
like
secure
the,
some space?
Are you the boss at the end of the story mode? Like, defeat me.
yes, yeah, I'll expand the character model, even though that's not tack. Yeah.
You just bump up the other
Big
person's
player.
hitboxes, so you just hit them.
Yeah, I'll be the only one that can reach you. I'll just reach my sword out and smack you around.
You're just like the Smash Brothers hands.
Yes.
Yes.
So I've been thinking about this. I had a question. I wanted to pose something, and you don't have to tell me now, but think about this. I need to do Twitch integration. I want to get the chat involved, and I love the bomb because it's like not going to interfere with gameplay, but you can kind of like make a shout out. So I wanted to do like a balloon that floated kind of like in between the two, and you had to kind of like get the slash to hit the balloon, and it would say the name.
Candy
I think
pops
it'd be
out.
interesting because it doesn't interfere and it doesn't change the gameplay, but it's something extra. So I'm trying to think of ways to integrate Twitch chat and let the chat members be a part of the game without interfering with the competition.
Yeah, I think that kind of stuff is kind of fun. I like the
I would,
balloon idea. Give them something to hit.
Yeah, that balloon idea is great. I would maybe do a game type where every round, I don't know if you have rounds or planning rounds, but the audience chooses the weapons for each guy.
I like that. Okay.
That'd be
Like
that'd be pretty cool.
a chat chosen character.
Yep.
They vote who they want to see you play. Kind of.
Yeah.
Anything
because
but
everyone-
Voldo.
everyone- What'd you have? Oh,
Was it
Voldo.
anything but Voldo, one of the guys from Soul Calibur, the weird one.
Yeah, hey, it was my favorite character, so
I
just
can
goes
never
to
use
show
him.
it takes all time. Takes all
Yep.
time. And his little back crab walk.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was always Mitsurugi, and I had like the ones where he's pushing two hands on the sword. I had whole combos with those moves. Just walk PJ right off the edge. Bye.
There's nothing like brotherly fighting game rivalry.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's
Because you establish and you maintain it. Through all games.
we used to play Street Fighter sitting next to each other, and you just punch the other kid,
Yeah.
knock him off his chair.
If you're on metal folding chair, somebody's gonna get a boot, and that chair's gonna
Yeah.
be sideways.
Yeah, high kick, high kick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kick this, bitch.
Yeah. That's first thing come to mind. I can see if we can think up some other things. I think that's a great idea.
Mhm.
When it's done well, that Twitch integration, it can be so much fun.
Mhm.
As long as it's not game affecting.
Right, and that's the tough part is to strike that balance where, you're engaging, and they enjoy it, and I just think like showing their name is such a big part of it. That whole bomb
Yeah.
thing, being acknowledged in the space. That's a big part of Twitch. Is being able to do
Maybe
that.
if you do that round thing with the weapon choice, maybe when the round's over and the scores come up, you list who voted for what, and then puts their name up
Yeah,
there.
yeah, the names are there.
Yeah.
So you
Yep.
get to see who's or during the character selection, because that's kind of like the character selection is what would change. You would no longer have choice, but it would still be there, and you could see like the votes fill in each.
Yeah, that'd be
Be
neat.
some names on who voted what. I think that's a really good idea to include the names for the votes.
Otherwise, the only other thing, real quick, that comes to mind, I don't know if you're going to have this or if it's a plan or not, but with interactable environments, like say you're on top of the roof and people can vote for the roof to collapse at a certain point, or like something falls out of the sky or something. That
Seems like
type of
something
thing.
like that too.
I like it because you could do like fireworks in the background kind of thing,
Yep.
where depending on where you are, to have little events in the arena that's going on that could be very interesting.
Yeah.
When I think about that kind of stuff, there was an old online game that a friend of mine used to play called, was it Battle Tetris or something? That you'd get pickups as you played, and you could use those. It would like swap your blocks. So I always go back to that kind of stuff. Like anything you think, like just take it to the simple game like Tetris. What would be the most annoying thing you could do? Because like I would use to swap my block. I would ruin my whole side, about to lose, and I'd swap it, and then he'd have my blocks, and he would lose because he's like, I can't fix this. Just that kind of stuff. I take it like back, like what kind of stuff
Yeah.
does my game have in it that could be simple like that, but be devastating, or not?
Yeah.
Because like maybe like a switch spot, like somebody push a button, like somebody's doing like an air attack and about to slam down on the other guy, but then you switch spots, and then the other guy gets slammed down on, and uses his own move against him.
And I did notice that it is often like the streamers are trying to the chat is trying to make it worse, and that always blew my mind because I thought like they would be helping. No, they want to
No.
make
They
it
just
more
want to see more
difficult.
random stuff. They're like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
like in Guardians of the Galaxy when they're all gambling for that little thing to eat that other rat thing, and they're all just throwing money on the table. That's what the Twitch chat's always like to me. It's like they just want to see chaos and random.
well, unfortunately, my headset power is getting low,
Oh no!
All right.
so I am gonna have to, unfortunately, due to hardware limitations, because I usually just keep it plugged in. But this has been great. Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
I
so
love
much.
it.
Sometime, yeah.
Hey,
see what's-
have you come back when the game releases or whatever, and
Yeah.
share some more? And
Yeah, and we'll get some
Hopefully
more
we'll-
imagery set up. Hopefully, the Spatial Ape stuff will have like more dynamic content.
Yep.
Be
Yep.
great.
I'm sure they're busy. I
if
hope
you
to.
want us to hang out some Friday night and fight each other or whatever, we can do to help.
Keep your eye on the Discord. We post in the matchmaking lobby, and send it
All
out
right.
to your lovely viewers so that hopefully they can as well.
Awesome. Well, thanks for stopping by, man. I
Thanks for
played the
having me.
game. I love it. I'm excited. Can't wait to smack this guy around.
Yep, it's gonna happen.
Love it. Excellent. Have a good day.
All right, man. See ya. Oh, it's go time, huh? I can't even make a fist.
Yeah. Keep trying to do that and I'm
Well-
clicking on you guys.
Well, everyone, that was Dan from eFish working on Saberpunks. If you're listening to this audio version, check the show notes below. We'll have links. Probably get some videos up. And maybe play you soon.
Yep.
But for episode 74, I am PJ.
I'm Wookie.